Morning, everyone. Today is Monday, November 18th. Welcome to the um, clients only webinar from California. We had a very big federal webinar this morning. It was our last one for the year. Just a quick note that we will be changing from Zoom to Teams in the new year. So this will be the last Zoom webinar that we have. With the new year comes a new link that we will be sending out to you folks. As you know, Avis and Alexis do a great job with the emails and the text messaging to let everyone know where and when things are going on. And that being said, we did say the next webinar will be January 13th, Monday, January 13th. We're going to do a pre-shot webinar. So hopefully Matt and Chuck, the boys, will be able to join us pre-shot, and then we'll see. Are you going to be at shot, Matt? Will we see you at shot for a
Don't
day
know
or
yet.
two?
Don't know yet. We'll see.
Okay, and Chuck usually stops in out at shot as well because he's got his place in Vegas that I'm sure he's likes to spend time at. So Monday the 13th, we'll be doing a pre-shot webinar, and then from there we will do one probably right away, like we did last year. But I want to get things rolling here. We're going to throw things over to Hank first. Hank, our business guru, is here with us from Kentucky, and we're going to let him have the floor first so he can hop off and go get some go pay some bills today, right, Hank? You got some business to do.
Thanks. I appreciate it, Brian. And again, I'm going to bring up a few kind of market stuff and then talk about, 2025. For those of you, and I only bring this up not to be a Debbie Downer, but just to make folks not feel like they're on an island. One of the biggest calls that I got for the month of October, and still am getting from folks, is, "Hey, Hank, business is down. What am I going to do? I feel like I'm all alone here." I can promise each and every one of you, you're not alone. October was a horrible month for the industry. I firmly believe it was kind of this big, like, what's going to happen with the election, everyone holding off on making purchasing decisions. And that's what really kind of crushed October. But again, I say it mostly just to let everyone know, hey, it's not just your shop. It's like all the shops out there had a really, really rough time. But with that, now that we're into a Trump administration era moving into it, what is 2025 going to look like? I don't feel it's going to be like the Trump slump of 2016, mostly because people weren't making these big gambling bets and ordering two, three, four, five times as much inventory as they really needed. And then, as we saw after the first Trump administration, so many shops having to put stuff on fire sale because they needed the money more than they needed the inventory to pay bills, and then prices just went through the floor. We're not going to see that. So we'll see a stabilization, and I'm already seeing it in November numbers, a stabilization of the market in kind of a year perspective. But my advocacy to everyone is, start planning for 2025. How are you going to, get that revenue stream moving in? Set your monthly goals, set your quarterly goals, set your annual goals. And one of the big ones that I've heard in October, this is from people calling me saying, "Hey, Hank, I want to diversify my business in 2025." And the number one thing that I'm hearing from folks is gunsmithing. A lot of them are wanting to add some flavor, some facet of gunsmithing into their business. And so I'm going to speak from a broad spectrum here of when I've talked with folks. Number one, if you're going to jump into gunsmithing, know what you're getting into. Alexis and I, in our last call, talked about, making sure you have an agreement, a contract of some sort with your folks. What work am I having done? What does that look like? Or even on the flip side of it, if someone abandons product that you're doing gunsmithing work on, what is when do you take ownership of it? Like the whole spectrum, soup to nuts, of what does a gunsmithing interaction look like for your business? Number two, do you have the right kind of license? Are you operating currently on a type 1 right now? You may have to transition to a type 7, and then what does that look like? Are we adding a 7 and keeping our 1? And FFLGuard can coach you and move you down the path on that. And here's why I'm really focusing on that. So many folks are wanting to move into this gunsmithing arena, and then I ask them a very critical question. Well, are you gunsmithing? Are you doing armorer's work? Or are you manufacturing a firearm? Because there are things that a gunsmith does that moves you into the manufacturer's column in it, and you need to know that. And so many folks that I've talked with don't know where that line in the sand is drawn between gunsmithing and manufacturing. And boy, I would hate for all of you to go out there, add that into your spectrum of services that you're offering in 2025, only to find out that you aren't either A, under the right type of license, or B, not documenting manufactured firearms properly, not getting all of that put together in a proper and safe way. Because it can really happen. As we were talking, in the last hour, Cerakoting has been a kind of back and forth. Is Cerakoting manufacturing a firearm? Doing it for a customer's gun? No. If you're doing it for a gun that's in your inventory and you change the finish on it, is that manufacturing a firearm? You need to know where those lines are drawn. FFLGuard can help you along with those lines as well too. But again, for 2025, look at that, diversifying my business, looking for new channels of revenue in your business. And if gunsmithing is that one you want to add, A, make sure you got the right type of license. 2, understand the difference between armor work, gunsmithing, and manufacturing. 3, talk with Alexis about, getting a good solid contract put together to what that looks like. And number 4, make sure you're properly insured as well too, because that's a whole new stream of business that's going to need a whole new stream of insurance coverage. Make sure you're crossing those T's and dotting those I's.
Sounds good to me. Thank you very much, Hank. We appreciate it every time. And to you, sir, happy Thanksgiving. Merry Christmas.
Happy Thanksgiving, happy Christmas, everyone. I'll see you guys out at SHOT. I'll be out there milling about, and got a few guest appearances and some booths planned. And again, feel free to grab me by the collar and have a good chat with me while I'm out there.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, buddy. We appreciate it. And that'll
Thanks, y'all.
right into Alexis, letting everybody know where we're going to be for SHOT and all the other good stuff coming up. What do you got, Alexis?
So our booth moved this year. We're going to be on the main floor for SHOT Show. It's booth number 14730. In the coming weeks, you're going to be getting emails that say, hey, if you want to see us, come book a time with us. Definitely take the time, book it now. And like I mentioned earlier, don't forget, everything gets booked up and everything gets crazy there, not just our schedules. So if you want to have a place to eat for lunch, go ahead and get on Open Table now and make some lunch reservations for yourself, because otherwise you'll be waiting for hours. Other things, it is the first of the year coming around. It is a great time. Check your RPs on your license, make any necessary updates. Take a look at your insurance. Has there been any sort of changes, new business avenues, all of that? Are you covered for your operations? Are there things you can do to be covered, reduce your rates? First of the year, great time to just stop and take a look at all of that. Also, let's see, what else do I have here? Don't want to forget. Taking a look. Yeah, we will be sending out an email today with asking for questions for ATF. While FFLGuard is at SHOT Show, we get our clients' questions together and we sit down with ATF and have a forum and address those. We need those questions. We kind of have a short time to compile that list because we have to get it to ATF well in advance of the meeting. So be on the lookout for that. We'll give you a form, shoot it back, let us know your questions, drop a ticket if you miss the email, but definitely get those to us as soon as possible. And that's all I got.
Okay, sounds exciting. Well, Avis, is there
and we'll turn it over to Matt.
Yeah, is there anything else we're missing on the client relations end, Avis? And before we turn it all over to Mr. Cubiero?
The only thing I'd like to mention is, yes, we have a new website. If you need some help with that, please just email us, client relations at FFLGuard, info at FFLGuard, either one. Say, help me, and I will get you on the list, and we will definitely walk you through things if you just want help at any time with the new website. We're here to do whatever we can.
All right. Then without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Matt Cubiero.
All right. Well, so Chuck sends his regards. He apologizes he couldn't be here this morning. That being said, we are, of course, coming off the election results of this year, which is going to greatly have some impacts on pending firearm litigation as well as future firearm litigation efforts, not only here in California, but throughout the nation. We do, of course, have recent decisions out of the Illinois circuit regarding their challenge to the assault weapon restrictions there, which will have, I think, significant impacts nationwide, not just here in California, largely because we, of course, have our own challenge pending to California's assault weapon laws. But there's also a case pending in front of the Supreme Court. And so these types of cases, as they make their way through the judicial process, sort of raise the issue more and more and create circuit splits among the various circuits. And that's what really we all sort of agree on that the Supreme Court focuses on, are those types of issues where you have various circuit splits and they're of, significant constitutional importance. And so, with the recent election and the possibility of Trump picking up, a couple more Supreme Court nominees, we remain very hopeful as a result of this that we might actually get some more rather significant Second Amendment related litigation out of the Supreme Court, not just because of the efforts in Illinois, but also because of everything that's been going on lately, and also the recent challenges that we've been filing here in California, which have all been stayed pending the Duncan ruling, which most of you are familiar with as our challenge to California's restrictions on magazines capable of holding more than 10 rounds. And so we've all been sort of waiting to see what the Ninth Circuit is going to be doing with the Duncan case. And we all sort of agree that they were likely holding off on doing any sort of ruling or issuing a ruling until after the results of the election, because they obviously want to know, well, if potentially, for example, Kamala Harris was elected, she might have had an opportunity to change the makeup of the Supreme Court, and therefore the Ninth Circuit might have issued a ruling in sort of line with how they think the Supreme Court might then take it, or just hold on to it. But now that Trump's been elected, that possibility, of course, has gone out the window. And so it'll be interesting to see what the Ninth Circuit does here with Duncan and all of the pending cases here in the Ninth Circuit, and also just generally in California. And one of those cases, of course, we actually have oral arguments coming up on, is the Rhodey case, which is the challenge to the ammunition purchase requirements, specifically the background check requirements. That's coming up in December. Of course, it'll take some time for a decision to come out as a result of that, but that's something to look forward to here in the coming weeks. On the legislative front, of course, we saw a number of bills enacted this year. I will say, just from a broad, 30,000-foot approach kind of thing, the bills that were enacted this year, thankfully, were not as impactful as they have been, especially in the past couple of years. Largely because, and this is just my take on it, that they're starting to run out of ideas on how to regulate us here in California. And so a good example of this is the bill that establishes the California Office of Gun Violence Prevention within the Department of Justice, which they already sort of had in some regards, but nonetheless, what they're really doing is they're directing the Department of Justice to sort of look into firearm issues, specifically as it relates to dealers and transactions and sales and things like that. So I would expect for those dealers that are on the call that are here in California, you can start seeing some upticks as far as DOJ inspections and communications from DOJ regarding things like that in the coming years, largely because what the legislature is wanting from the California Department of Justice is this information on, how often are dealers, violating or subject to inspection findings and get a notice of violation or something like that. So be aware of that. And of course, work with not only us, but through FFLGuard to, if you have upcoming inspections or you have impending inspection, things like that, we of course want to make sure that you guys are not inadvertently running into issues or have any questions on things like that. Let us know. That outside of that, I would say probably the two most impactful bills this year are AB 3064 and SB 53. 3064 is the one that creates a requirement that all firearm safety devices, which are those, locking mechanisms or other types of devices that typically will come with handguns, for example, or firearms, they have to be listed on DOJ's, they're creating basically a roster for the firearm safety device program that they have. And there's going to be an annual fee for manufacturers of those devices to be listed on that roster. And so obviously from a practical effect, I would expect to see a large number of firearm safety devices just sort of fall off and not actually be listed on the roster and approved for sale. So it'll remain to be seen how this actually affects dealers at the end of the supply chain, but be aware that there could be a potential shortage of firearm safety devices if manufacturers are, for example, not getting them listed, tested, and approved on DOJ's new roster. The other requirement, Senate Bill 53 that was enacted this year, is basically a statewide storage requirement. And so it's going to basically require anybody that keeps a firearm in their home to be stored either with one of those firearm safety devices or in a safe of some type. So I would expect dealers here in California might be getting more customers once this law takes effect regarding certain storage requirements, things like that, that weren't required previously, but were obviously still very encouraged. Now that the state's going to require it, I would expect to see more people interested in purchasing safety devices or gun safes here in the state of California. Outside of that, there were a couple bills that were enacted last year. They still haven't taken effect, but there are some. It's sort of to keep in mind that this is coming at some point, and DOJ regulations are going to be implemented that will give us the specifics on this. But the two that I really want to call out are the dealer employee training certificate requirements, which I believe take effect, I think it's 2026. This will basically require all of your employees to undergo DOJ certified training and basically get certified that they are sufficiently trained, whatever DOJ thinks they come up with, to ensure that, for example, they understand basics of firearm laws here in California or something like that. Now, of course, that's just a hypothetical of what I expect to see, but nonetheless, be aware that that is coming down the pipeline. So we might see regulations this upcoming year. We might see them, a little bit later. Who knows? But I wouldn't be surprised to see those regulations be proposed here shortly. And then, of course, there's also Senate Bill 368, which was enacted last year, which does require dealers to take firearms in for storage under certain circumstances. For example, if someone comes into your shop and they say that, this guy's been prohibited for some reason or some issue, or we think he's a danger to himself or others, dealers will have to take storage of those firearms, at least temporarily. I'll get into some of the more specifics on that once we see if, for example, DOJ does adopt any sort of specific regulations on that as well. But that said, this year, as far as regulations are concerned, DOJ has, of course, recently proposed their amendments to the ammunition purchase fee requirements for the ammunition transactions. Specifically, what they're trying to do is they're trying to raise the cost of the AFS simple $1 check to $5. And so they proposed those regulations a while back, and there was a public comment period. DOJ still has to respond to those public comments, and they have not yet done so. So they may change their mind. They may, make some changes to the regulations, or they may just push forward. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But so that is something to be aware of as well. But outside of that, that's all I have for today. So you're muted, Brian.
How about that? Unmute is
There you
always
go.
better. There's never a dull moment in California, is basically what I was saying. You're definitely not a shortage for work in this industry in California. And
Yeah.
we're very glad to have you, as your name and Chuck's name came up a lot these past couple of weeks. We have had some calls come in from California FFLs looking to join. Of course, whenever anybody from California calls, first thing I say is, are you a member of the CRPA? That's the first thing that anybody and everybody in California should be a member of. I say, if you're not going to join FFLGuard, if you're not going to go for, Michele Associates, you should be a member of the CRPA, because they get everything across out there in California. So we definitely appreciate having you, buddy. We're glad you are on the mend. and we are looking forward to seeing you in at SHOT Show if you can make it out for the day. Otherwise, Alexis,
Tell
Avis,
Chuck to get me a ticket.
oh, okay, not a problem. And then and don't forget pizza's Wednesday night. So if
Oh,
you
there
want
you
to
go.
come out on Wednesday.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Alexis, Avis, are we forgetting anything?
Just don't forget to shoot those questions over when you get that email. And again, if you need anything, if you're not sure how to do something, you know, not sure if FFL Guard can help you, what the scope of your services are, please don't be shy. You know, give us a call, shoot us an email. We're here to help.
Say goodbye, Avis.
Goodbye.
We'll see everyone again on January 13th. Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, all that good stuff. And we will see you again.